And I was doing it just myself for people. Like, they didn't even know how I was doing it, but my turnaround time was insane. And so people were asking, like, oh, is this a copy and paste? Be like, no, can I show you what I do? And then somebody pitched to me, you should put this in an app.
Thanks for tuning in to the Self-Funded with Spencer podcast. Let's go make healthcare better together. I'm going to probably bring up your mustache, just so you know.
Oh,
I want you to
please
talk
do.
about your mustache, dude.
Yeah. Do you like it or no?
Dude, I think it's sick. What I'm actually envisioning, and we'll just start. We're starting, Chris, okay? I envision it's almost like you are going to be in a mustache competition at some point, dude.
I mean, I might try it. Okay. I have.
But like, you tell me, and I'm here with Chris Burgess. You're founder of Affili-Fit. Did I say that properly?
Yes.
Super excited what you're talking about, but I'm fixated on the mustache for a second, so we're going to talk mustache. Tell me about the process to get it in the shape that it's in right now, man.
So I'm still learning.
Okay.
So, I grew up very reserved and I'd never wanted to stand out. And then now that I'm in the position that I'm in, I said, I'm going to do something kind of wild.
Okay.
What is something that I can do? I'm not dyeing my hair. So
like, you don't want bleach blonde, spiky hair or something
like that? You know what? I seen somebody with a really big mustache. And I said, I'm going to grow a massive
Dude, I think it suits you, man. I mean, especially because we'll talk about your history and, obviously you said you were growing up throwing hay bales and stuff and all that stuff. But I'm curious, how, this point that you got it here now, how do we get the shape of it?
So how I got here is when I first started growing it, it didn't want to do nothing.
Okay.
And so I was just combing it and I would use my hair product and put it in there. And then I met a guy who had a massive mustache in person. I was like, how do you get it like that?
Like the handlebar with the curl and stuff too? All right.
And which I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have mine grow straight out like right here. Kind of like that Western style.
Yeah.
And he said, I use wax.
Okay.
And so I actually bought this wax. It's called Bone Crusher.
Bone Crusher, right on, dude.
And so I take it and I literally have to heat it up.
Okay.
And then put it in my mustache and then just hold it and wait.
So what does the missus think about the mustache?
She loves it.
She loves it? Okay.
Yes. I was actually going to cut it.
And she's like, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was now it has wax in it, so it's not really in my mouth. But before I learned, that's how they make it look. Because my hair product, after an hour, it would just kind of fall down. It's not the same type of hair.
Yep.
And so after I got that wax in there, oh, yeah, she instantly was like, you're not cutting it.
Yeah.
She loved it.
Dude, that's what, I listen to my wife. I mean, we both have our own style and stuff, but when my wife tells me she likes something or doesn't like something, I'm listening to what she says, right?
Yes.
Because she's got to look at me every day. But, who's that? Is it that actor? I think it's like Sam Parsons, I think. He's the older guy. He's always playing like Western. He's always like some sort of outlaw or,
Sam Elliott?
Sam Elliott, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. And he's got the white version of that. And he can never shave it because that's his shtick. Yeah. But anyway, sorry, too much mustache talk. No. Sorry, Chris. But real quick, man, I want to, for the audience that's listening, obviously we're going to get your backstory here in just a second. But the folks that are listening that have tuned into this episode and aren't familiar with Affili-Fit, what is this? Why don't you give us like the elevator pitch of what it is before we get going?
Yep. So we're a behavioral health app infused with AI to automate healthy habits.
Okay.
So that is the streamlined tagline of what we do.
And those healthy habits are nutrition-based?
Yes,
and
nutrition, fitness, and then lifestyle. So that lifestyle piece is we automate your grocery shopping.
No kidding.
Yes. Okay. And so it's automated meal planning, exercise routines, and grocery prep.
Well, we've obviously sat down together before, but this is like right up my alley to talk about. And I love the fact that this is going to be positioned and is positioned as a benefit. You're working with brokers. So it's a perfect marriage of what I personally like, which is health and fitness and stuff, bringing it into the world of employee benefits. But of course you didn't start there, man. So I want to go way back in time real quick and learn about you. Where'd you grow up? What kind of interests you had? Where'd you go to school, sports, all that good stuff. So give us your bio, man.
Yeah, man. So I'm from a town called Callisburg, Texas.
Okay. Where is that?
Yeah. So we're about 15 minutes east of Gainesville, Texas.
Okay.
Bunch of cow fields. We have a nice school now. We didn't when I first started. We had portable buildings.
Okay.
And then now we've scaled up and got a really nice school.
How big was this town when you grew up? Like how many people?
355.
Like the whole town?
The whole town.
Okay, so
but we accepted transfers.
Okay.
So that's what we were way bigger than, or we looked a lot bigger than we were just because how big our school was. But all of the surrounding schools and rich neighborhoods, full transparency, they wanted their kids to go to a small country town for school. And we loved it. So I grew up playing sports. I guess, I'll touch on how I grew up was in the country. Okay. So I grew up fixing fence, baling hay. Everything under the sun that came with like ranch work and learning how to weld at a young age.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So I was welding in the oil field for a company named RWI.
Okay.
They're no longer in business, but I was literally welding for them while I was playing sports in high school.
No
So
kidding.
I would leave from school, go and weld. Yeah, my dad taught me a really hard work ethic. And so,
well, yeah, you said it over coffee, man, and I want to make sure like you get a chance to say it. But like your tagline of like your blue collar, and
yeah,
collar. Yeah. What did
blue
you say?
collar work ethic with a white collar mindset.
I love that, man. Yeah,
Yes.
because I mean, I think growing up in that type of situation, hard work wasn't an option, right? It's a given that you got to work your butt off, right? And I think it shapes you as a human being to be successful in the future.
And it definitely does. And I didn't realize it until, now that I'm full white collar, running a tech company, which is, I never would have guessed this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's certain times when I'm working with other people and they have this drag. Because when you're only working with your mind, it's really hard to relate whenever somebody's worked with just their body. And working with just your body, when there's a job to be done, when you can see the end of that fence row where you have that orange steak or whatever you have, there's a different type of mentality and I call it the dog that comes out in you when you can see it and you're like, all right, I see it. One steak at a time, one more step, one steak, but it's visual.
Yeah.
You can literally see what you're doing.
Well, I tell my dad, you mentioned construction. I want to hear about your construction experience, but my dad was a construction company owner, a small paving company. And I actually am jealous of the fact that he could have a project, he could envision it, start it, and see it come to fruition. And then every time you drive by, there it is, right? There's there's a permanence or an indelibleness about the work that he and the crew did that you can always point to and say, I did that, right? I'm mostly in the world of, professional services, financial services, risk. There's not a lot of things that you can point to and show somebody else, I did that, and there's a pride that comes with that as well.
Yes. And it's funny. So my wife, I'll be driving, I'm that guy. Hey, do you know I did the roof on that? And she's like, yes, you told me. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I'll drive by and I'll look over and she's even looking at me smiling sometimes.
She's waiting for you to say it. Yeah.
And I'm like, she's like, I know, you told me that before. I'm like, okay. Just keep driving.
Well, like my dad, his crew did the steps at the Prosper Town Courthouse. And so we drive by it almost every day. And I'm always like, oh yeah, Grandpa did that, telling my kids. And I'm sure they don't care. It doesn't make sense to them. But I take pride in knowing that and being able to share it. I'm sure if he knew I was telling them that, he'd get a kick out of it as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so what kind of construction did you do? Because it sounds like you did do.
Man, so just about everything. Because when I was growing up, it was more of we just needed to do this. It wasn't like, what trade are you? It was my dad, my grandpa, whoever it was, we're learning today.
Okay.
So don't do concrete and boot or shoes and shorts. Tell you that now, it'll burn your legs.
Yeah.
Just little lessons like that I learned along the way. But professionally, I was a commercial construction, either an estimator or a subcontractor.
Yep.
So I started doing construction myself. I was doing construction myself, building pipe fence, building barns, so on and so forth. And then I got to a hard spot whenever that COVID hit.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that was rough. And so, and at that same time, I was still doing my bodybuilding. I was still doing fitness as an extreme hobby, is what I say. And I just so happened to stumble upon the right ranch.
Okay.
And they hired me on as a commercial construction estimator. That's whenever I transitioned from doing construction for myself to being employed at a commercial construction company.
Did you enjoy that? Did you like working for somebody else or no?
No.
You seem pretty entrepreneurial, obviously. But
and mine was the time frame because they were very big, very structured. An amazing company, by the way. So, but they had a structure.
Yeah.
And me, I don't really bend to those things, or I like to bend things. I like to innovate.
Yep.
But with commercial construction, especially a lot of methods that are here now, they haven't changed.
Okay.
And they're probably not going to.
Just what, are they too rigid in some of the rules or compliance stuff?
No, just stuff works.
Oh, stuff works. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Well, fair, yeah. Obviously, you want the building to stay standing 10 minutes after you build it,
Yes.
of course.
Now, the engineering side, that's evolving and things look a lot different. But when it comes down to my side of things, it wasn't innovative enough.
Okay.
But I will say that job helped me start Affili-Fit.
Well, I believe it. And I want to ask you about, did you always think you would be an entrepreneur? Did you have that type of mindset at an early age? No. Okay.
No. So, but looking back on it, and I didn't realize it until I got into doing these podcasts and being interviewed. In my community that I grew up in, we were so small, you bartered.
Okay.
So I was learning entrepreneurship at that young age. I didn't even know it. So I'd go.
What kind of stuff were you bartering? Give me an example.
Oh, lawnmowers, tractors. I mean, you could go make a deal. Well, she's passed away, Margaret. So I used to go to Margaret's house. They had a tractor.
Okay.
So I would ask her, like, hey, can I use your tractor? Yeah, but you got to mow this in order to use my tractor.
Yeah.
I'm like, heck yeah, I'm going to go make $200 on, so I'd mow hers and then I'd go make $200.
That's cool.
Bring it back filled up. Just little things like that. Or using somebody's tools. Usually you would offer, it's common courtesy to offer yourself or offer services in exchange for somebody else's tools.
Yeah.
Or to bring them in on the project.
Okay.
Which even scaling from like a kid then or teenager then to doing my own construction, that happened all the time.
Well, yeah. So whether or not you were a natural entrepreneur, you were put in a situation where you had to think like one.
Yeah, options were limited.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't have internet where I was at. Like it was pretty bare bones. Now looking at it, they have everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obviously the natural progression of things. I mean, I live in Prosper now, and we're looking at maybe some other places more north, but progress happens everywhere, dude. So like when we moved to Prosper 7-ish years ago, huge amount of open land and fields and cornfields and, cows and stuff. Slowly but surely progress, whether you like the progress or not, is happening because people are just moving there, man.
Yes.
And so I think maybe some of the folks that have been there 30 or 40 years might lament the fact that it's changing, but it's kind of also inevitable, it feels like this way.
I love it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people assume I don't because like we're known for being rural outback. My family's pretty crazy. It's like, but we like it. I mean, because you get new cultures in, you get new people in, you get new innovation, you get so much progression in your community for your school system. I mean, because before, like we were in porta buildings when it was just us. I mean, you had a handful in a class to, over 100 because you're accepting transfers. And then you see the progression in like family members. Like, do you know they went here for a job and they would have never got that job if they didn't have the connection or grew up with this kid or whatever that is. So it's a lot bigger than us.
I believe so too, yeah. And I mean, you can look at some of those towns that don't have the same type of progress that are actually going in the other direction and kind of the despair that often comes with that because like maybe a town mine moved or the GM plant is no longer there and that actually can destroy towns as well. And you don't have the tax revenue, you don't have the people coming in, you don't have the growth, you don't have the businesses, the opportunity, and it goes the other direction instead. And that's really a sad thing, unfortunately, to see.
Yes. And you want businesses to have a skin in the game, with your community, or as a community, you want businesses in your community to have skin in the game.
Yep.
And so that is vital.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's where small towns have a leg up on some of the bigger towns is because it's such a good community. And everybody knows what's at stake.
Well, and and we'll move off this topic, but I think it's fun to talk about because I think about this with my children, right? And I think about, okay, what type of community do I actually want them to grow up in? I grew up in Mansfield when Mansfield was pretty small, and that's in Texas. And I felt like, you knew people's moms, you knew the small business owner, right? Like there was a town park that you could have soccer practice at. There was things like that I hope my kids get to experience because I also feel like when you grow up in a massive city or a massive community, you lose the local feel. And that's so, because I want them to look back and have memories about the community they grew up in, maybe have lifelong relationships that result from that. So I think about this stuff all the time.
Yes. And that is a good segue, at least when we get to it later about the app.
Yeah.
I'm applying that same small town mentality to the app.
Well, let's inch our way there, Chris. And I want to. You mentioned your extreme hobby of bodybuilding, but what I really want to talk about is where fitness entered the frame for you.
12
as a
years
person.
old.
Okay, so what were you doing?
Like hardcore at 12.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I knew about it early. Like my dad would give me the magazines. I guess I don't know if
bodybuilding or what.
Everything.
Okay.
Strongman was really my interest.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was a defensive lineman. Okay. So how I started football was my life. Even from a kid, I got pictures. Like as soon as I was able to get into a football program, I was in it.
Okay.
And then I later went on to be All-State Defensive Most Valuable Player of the Year. I mean, it was pretty. Did
you have aspirations? Did you want to play in college, or did you?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd you play?
Angelo State.
Oh yeah.
Only for a handful of weeks. Yeah.
What happened there?
So I was on track. I mean, I was going to be an anesthesiologist.
Okay.
That I wanted to go medical. But I really didn't want to go medical. I was persuaded into it.
Okay.
By leaders around me. They're like, you need to go be a doctor or whatever it is because I was intelligent.
I like how you did it in air quotes. I was intelligent, yeah. But it wasn't really what you wanted to do.
No.
Then. Okay.
And I was shadowing. I just wanted money. I was a very financially motivated individual.
Okay.
And so during that transition, I was shadowing anesthesiologist. And I was blessed to have that opportunity. I talk to people now and they didn't get that as early as I did. But it did. It was amazing at first.
Okay.
And then I sat in there and technology had evolved to such a point when I was sitting in those rooms and we're just watching monitors. Mm-hmm. Guys got Netflix running in the background. It's like, well, this is what we do until we wait. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
This is not what I want to do.
You got to be moving, it sounds like. Yeah. Okay.
And then, football, you're waking up at 4 a.m. And then going into it, you have school and then you got practice afterwards or film something afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to get anywhere doing all of this all at once.
You had to imagine juggling a pre-med schedule with the demands of football in college. Those things got to be really difficult to do.
Yes. And I met a business owner at Concho Collision.
Okay.
So, and he had really nice cars. And I was like, what does he do? And that was my transition. Like after talking with him, and he was like, I'm not going to tell you to quit. This is just what I did.
Yeah.
And so I really sat down. I was methodical about it. And I knew I wasn't going to go play pro, even though there's stuff out there that's like thought I would, but I just wasn't tall enough, wasn't big enough. So I accepted that reality. I was like, okay, football's fun. It's cool to talk about, but it's not helping me progress as a man.
That's okay. That's really interesting to hear, especially recognizing that really early on.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much I want to go party or have fun, which is some reasons why people just don't play college sports. But you're like, it's actually going to get in the way of what I want to accomplish in my life.
And that's my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad's he's my best friend, man.
That's cool.
He's a preacher where I'm from, and I look up to him a lot. And so when we sat down, it's like, what makes you a man? Every time you need to have your core values, not just in business, which is crazy. It's used in business. I learned about it at first from my dad, being a preacher and just being a father. And it was just like, you have to know what you stand for and what you don't.
100%.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make this transition. I'm no longer going to be a doctor. I don't want to be an anesthesiologist. What am I going to be? And I didn't know.
Okay.
But I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to figure out who I am as a man. And then I'm going to, tackle that as hard as I can. And then
to use the football analogy, right? I'm going to tackle it as hard as I can, man. And so what did that change then? And then we'll inch our way. And I want to talk about how COVID really put you on this path of Affili-Fit. But what did that change then for you? Did you quit football?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I quit it instantly.
Okay.
As soon as I sat down, what does this do for me? I was like, I'm not going pro. And to be honest, I was at a D2 college and I could have easily been like a third string D1.
Okay.
It could have been. I even went to those lunches, got a picture of me and my dad at OU at the dinner. I was going to go there because my academics paid for everything anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's also a lot of the colleges that really wanted me because they seen me as like, oh, he's a freebie.
Yeah. So
academics
you have
already
all
paid.
upside and no downside. Right?
Yeah, because they didn't have to spend money on me.
Yep.
And so, I instantly just quit it. I walked in. I didn't even know how to do it. I was like, I don't know what to do here. I quit. And he was hot.
I'm sure he was.
Oh,
man.
hot.
Yeah.
And my knee brace wound up missing. Like by the time I got back to the locker room, because they're two separate buildings, my stuff was gone.
Oh, you're out. Like you're cut off, man. Yeah.
Well, I didn't take it out.
That's what I'm saying. No, I'm saying like there's some companies where if you turn in your notice, they'll like walk you out the door, right?
Yes.
That's the kind of sounds like what happened is like, you're dead to us, Chris.
That's exactly what happened. But good thing a lot of the athletes, I was transparent with why I did it.
Yeah.
And I think even kind of your response, that's how they reacted. Like a lot of the other young men were like, well, I don't know what I'm doing either. Unfortunately, I started a little posse of people who also quit.
Oh, man. So you influenced actually some of that.
I did.
Okay.
And I still feel guilty in my soul for that because they should have done it on their own. Like there's something that needs to happen. And maybe I'm that somebody for them that made that revelation happen. But from there, I quit and I was 330 plus.
Whoa.
And I was a D lineman.
Okay.
And so I was like, you know what? Or a defensive lineman. And I was specifically an inside tackle for my nerds out there, for my football guys.
For the football guy. There's plenty of them. I'm sure they're listening.
And so my goal was just to be as big and immovable as possible.
Okay.
And so from there, I was like, this is not healthy. I wasn't unhealthy. Like I did all my blood work as we all do at that age. Like at that stage, you have to get your blood work done.
Okay.
And so I was still healthy per se. But I met a bodybuilder. And his name is Dylan Adames.
Okay.
And we met at a math tutoring class. The dude was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely massive. And not just massive, but proportionally massive.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
His aesthetic was remarkable. And
so that put the bug in your brain a little bit?
Oh, well, he sat me down and he was like, golly, you're big. And I'm like, you're not like you. And went on its bragging fest like what guys do. And he was just like, I can help you.
Okay.
And within a matter of just a handful of months, I just shed weight and got jacked, so to speak. But I fell in love with the process. This guy was so smart, still is so smart.
Yeah, yeah.
Very impactful in my life.
Well, do you know what, dude? That's a misconception that I feel like is that that meathead label that people get on. To the science to be, especially at a really high level bodybuilder, the science that's required, the discipline that's required, it requires a very high level of intelligence. And I know a lot of those guys have coaches too that apply those things, but it's not just go lift weights and eat a lot of food. The precision that's required to be elite requires a certain level of intelligence.
Yes, down to the gram.
Yeah.
Like those guys are, and when they hire a coach, it's more for accountability and time. Because to do it correctly, I mean, I would spend an entire day, like a full day, mapping out every single gram, calorie, where the macro is coming from, even how much sodium, water intake compared to the sodium. Am I really hydrating myself? Or, you know what I mean? It's a lot of complex things that went into there. And I found a love for helping others. So I've trained people almost a decade now.
Okay.
And that was never full time. So I call myself like a part-time personal trainer.
Yeah.
You know, because it just doesn't pay the bills, or at least not the bills I want to pay. But that all came from him. And when I shed all of that weight off, but I didn't see a career path in being a personal trainer or a bodybuilder.
Okay. But what it sounds like is this is all laying the groundwork for the creation of Affili-Fit.
Like, without even knowing
the story is, they say that it's easy to connect the dots in hindsight, but like looking back, I'm sure you connected those dots for yourself, but me just hearing your story, it's easy to connect the dots. So let's go to the moment in time when you realize, hey, I could create something here. And then what was it about COVID that required maybe necessity's the mother of invention? So what happened during that time that made you build this company?
Yeah, so it's a movie moment. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
Envision yourself.
We need cinematic like theme and music and stuff, Nathaniel. Go.
Yeah.
All right.
So I was just sitting at my laptop, and whenever the first part of the idea started, so as a commercial construction estimator, I built or worked on very complex spreadsheets.
Okay.
I mean, you got to think we were building massive buildings or working on massive infrastructures of multiple building types. The reason why I lay out that multiple building types is when you change something in the system or the spreadsheet, it would automate across to the entire spreadsheet.
Okay.
So you didn't have to do it again.
Yeah.
So you had your base functionality of data.
Yep.
Or your base data that would go out through the rest of it whenever you changed it. I was also handwriting meal plans for people.
Okay.
And I literally just looked down at my meal plan. I was wore out with it. I did it all for free for people. I would only help people that really needed help.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it'd be like, text me. And I would just give them an outline of what to do. But there's people who had real issues like diabetics. I have a heart for them. I mean, because a lot of them, especially like going out to eat today, is hard for like a diabetic, an extreme diabetic.
Yeah.
And so I was handwriting those meal plans and just looked up at my spreadsheet and was like, I bet you I could automate this.
For sure. Yeah.
If I wanted to. So I did.
Especially if you're handwriting and probably repeating the same steps over and over again as well. Like I'm sure the generic basis of what you could hand most people that could help them was repeatable, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then you go, I bet I could automate this, but did you have any software or any coding experience or nothing? Okay.
No.
But like what was the original vision at that point of how to automate it?
I actually did. I built a spreadsheet.
Okay.
And I can even show you the original spreadsheet.
I'd love to see it. Yeah.
I built. It's rough. Well, I didn't know it was rough until now I have my app and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, but looking at that, it's boring. It's not appealing to the eye.
Sure.
But I just had like absolute values, like of what your calories and macros were.
Okay.
And that was it. Yeah. That was just the base of it. Okay. Generate. And just pull from the row fields of what fit within those ranges. And that's how it started.
And so were you getting people, like what kind of reception were you getting? Or people were like, oh my God, this is great. I mean, I'm sure you were giving so much value that you thought, oh, there might be a market for this.
That's exactly what happened.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was doing it just myself for people. Like they didn't even know how I was doing it, but my turnaround time was insane. And so people were asking like, oh, is this a copy and paste? Be like, no, can I show you what I do? And it wasn't out of like, can I sell this? It was pure ego. I wanted to show how cool it was.
Yeah, look how awesome I am.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then somebody pitched to me, you should put this in an app.
Okay.
And then I was like, you know what? That's not me. Like, and I researched other apps out there. I was like, surely there's an app out there that does what mine does. And so I went on this huge exploration journey for months and was researching these other apps. And I was like, man, why do they not do this?
Yeah. Well, what was a missing element at that time? Like, what were you doing that these other apps that
Pure
existed?
automation.
Okay.
So a lot of them would automate, but they stuck you in a bubble. Like you couldn't get outside of that bubble, and you wouldn't notice it as a normal user unless you're like a health professional, like truly understand what a diet is. And so I was like, man, this is a blanket software.
Yeah.
Like me and you could be sitting next to each other and we'll get the same meal.
It's a one size fits all.
Yeah,
right?
essentially.
Yeah.
Or they had to manually enter.
Okay.
So there's a big one, I'll call them at MyFitnessPal. I love
it. Yeah.
And I'm not bashing them for this. I even shot emails to all these companies advising or asking if they could change certain things, which, I'm a small peon, I guess, in the millions of users. But it's like, it's not that hard, at least from my perspective at that time. I found out later through development cost, I found out why most of them don't do it.
Sure.
Because there's different storages, we won't go into that far, but it's very expensive to have that detailed of an AI meal planner.
Well, what was the moment, though, that you go, okay, this is going to go beyond me building an automated spreadsheet for people to like, I actually think I want to build a business around
When
this.
I got offered money.
Okay.
Changed
So somebody saw it and recognized the opportunity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you that proactively take you down this path, or were you already one foot out the door of the estimator job at that point?
I'm all in person.
Okay.
I quit instantly.
Did you really?
Yep.
Wow. I love the commitment, dude. Okay.
Well, I say quit instantly. I've always offered time. So, I offered my 2 weeks. And then he just, good dude, man, was like, no, you got it, bud.
Yeah.
And then, full transparency, some of the crew was like, you're making a huge mistake. I mean, I heard a bunch of those.
Yeah.
It was really good money, especially at that young of an age. It was way more than anybody else I knew was making, at least around me.
Having spent years working alongside healthcare leaders, brokers, and employers, I know how overwhelming healthcare can feel for our customers. We've all been there. Those renewal conversations that never seem to get easier. Rising pharmacy costs and medical costs, and no real transparency into where healthcare dollars are going. That's why I'm excited about Nomi Health. They're not just fixing the old system. They've rebuilt self-funded benefits from the ground up. With Nomi's network, you can offer something truly different. No copays, no deductibles, zero out-of-pocket costs when members see a provider. It's the kind of benefit that makes everyone ask, why hasn't healthcare always worked this way? Ready to bring your clients something different? Visit nomihealth.com and see how Nomi is rebuilding healthcare, one employer and one community at a time. But I wonder at what's happening there, and I don't know these people, but I wonder what happened is sometimes people look at you're taking a risk that they wish they would do themselves, and they're not willing for whatever reason, and I'm not bashing them for that, and they look at you and go, oh, it's not going to work, or you're giving up too much money, because that's probably what they've told themselves a lot, is why I don't go try to do something like that, because it's too much risk, or I'm going to fail, so I'm going to tell Chris he's making a big mistake when he's actually going to go do it instead.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what happened to me in football. Okay. People really thought I was going to the NFL. Like they had it in their head just because I made a couple articles, like in the All-State thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, people were trying to write your future. It's really them trying to fix their wrongs. I'm glad you brought that up, because I seen that from the sport point of view. And then now as a business owner, and now that we're scaling, all of them are coming back out of the woodworks.
And they're probably like, I knew you could do it
every time.
Yeah.
And the first one I handled poorly.
Okay.
So, and I apologize if you see this. I was rough.
Yeah.
I was territorial and just didn't respond how I should have.
Yeah.
The only reason why I say this, I hope somebody else sees this out there. They didn't know, and they had no reason to believe in you.
Yeah.
It was a new venture.
But I think, man, I mean, it's good to have a support system of people that are, will support you, whether it's financially or emotionally, support you on a risk like that. I think at the end of the day, though, you have to be the one that can do it and believes in that you can do it. Because most of the time, especially, there's like this valley of despair in every business that they go through in the life cycle. And that valley of despair, when you start questioning, why am I doing this? Did I make a mistake? I'm never going to make it, all that stuff. If you personally don't believe in yourself, then nobody else around you at that moment in time is going to believe in you either. And that's where I think a lot of businesses end up failing.
Yes. And that's where I was getting at, like, don't be dependent on like other people's support.
Okay.
Now your customers, you definitely need to listen to feedback. So I don't want to leave that out.
Sure.
But those people that don't have anything to do with where you're scaling or where you're going, I got to where I was dependent on it. And that's whenever I was aggressive with how I was approached, like, well, why didn't you say that then? And how that story goes.
Fair enough. But like, so that moment where somebody said, I'm going to put money into this, like, what was your response? What was that like? Going, you will? Like, you probably had to have been a little shocked at that point.
Very shocked.
Okay.
And I just said yes. I didn't show it at all.
Oh, really? So did you just have like a pitch deck at that point, or what were you kind of presenting?
I had it all written out. I had the spreadsheet. I mean, it is formatted like a business plan or a pitch deck at that time, but it was enough.
Yeah.
And I even kind of scaled.
Were you in that meeting thinking, oh, that's what's going to happen, or it just randomly happened that somebody said, I would like to invest in this?
I knew that they had money, and I knew that they liked what I was doing.
Okay.
So it was in the back of my head a little bit that they would have maybe advised me to go get money. I didn't know that they themselves were going to be interested in investing.
Okay. So early
that makes
days.
sense.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense, man. But early days, right? So you took on an investment, which creates a reality. It creates impetus. Now I have to go do this, right? So like, talk to me about those early days of now the build of the actual app itself.
Well, because that first investor came, and then it was just a snowball effect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we started raising hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it was wild.
That's crazy.
And
yeah.
and it just come from the word of mouth and being transparent with where I was at.
Okay.
Because I got complimented on that a lot. I'd be like, this is what I got, and this is where I want to go.
Okay.
And my pitch was so short. And so I got a lot of no's, but I got enough yeses to get to where I am now. I say when I first started and I got that money, I tried to do a lot of work myself.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to sacrifice that money.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
I was like, I did everything I could to try and code myself, try and do everything myself. And then I contracted one developer to start doing some work. And he was able to do in 2 weeks what I did in months.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then I just started throwing money at development, and it just started scaling dramatically.
Well, so let's talk about the app specifically, because I appreciate the folks that have listened and heard your story thus far, but like I want to get into the crux of what Affili-Fit does. So like talk to me about, you kind of described the overarching, like what it is and where it fits, but let's talk more brass tacks. Like what is this app actually doing for people or for employees at companies?
Yes, so automating those healthy habits is essential.
Okay.
And so what I looked at is I said, what actually makes you healthy that is not contingent upon a lot of other variables?
Okay.
Because there's tons of them. Genetics. I mean, I won't go on the whole list of those, but you need to eat within your caloric range and exercise regularly. And then sleep. And I leave that last one out because it's coming soon.
Okay.
Yes, we're going to be adding some sleep components. But sticking on eating within your caloric range and exercising regularly, those have to be automated almost. Like if you want to do it to the T how you should without spending hundreds of dollars a month on a trainer, you need to automate that process or be willing to eat the same exact thing every day.
Yeah.
So I personally love the diversity of food. So this is where I go back to the meal planner. So with the AI meal planner, what it does for an employee is it takes the thought process and the planning out of planning their meals.
Okay.
They go through the onboarding, and I won't touch on all of the topics, but I will say you choose from 12 meal plan types and counting. So we're adding different meal plan types, some of those keto, vegetarian, paleo, so on and so forth, pescatarian. But you also have your ingredient preferences.
Interesting. Okay.
So like if I advise people, like, are you a picky eater? Okay, I want you to go into the ingredient preferences and just exclude everything that you will not eat.
Okay, so you can get that level of precision into it.
Yes, and that's what was missing, because they would blanket you into a meal plan type. And a lot of people, or a lot of meal plan types are just marketing gimmicks.
Yep.
They just are. They're fads.
Everything has some name and it's hot for a little bit, but I think it's also the tried and true things keep coming back around every single time.
Yes.
And I don't blame people for like coming up with the Mediterranean diet or the anti-inflammatory diet. And I don't blame them for the marketing component of it, right? I wish them well. But people get so caught up in, I'm doing Whole30 and or I'm a paleo only, right? And they sort of create an identity around some fad diet. And realistically, it's just like the very consistent, repeatable things that you can do every day. You can have variations of that, but there's still like a core staple of things that are going to work for almost everybody.
ClaimDoc is a medical claim auditing and member advocacy company. We provide fiduciary services to employer-sponsored benefit plans, and allowing them to create an environment where we ensure that the benefit plans are being charged on a fair and reasonable basis.
My business is basically people, and it become a real simple transition. We thought it was going to be far more complex. I've saved, we'll say, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I could not say enough about ClaimDoc.
Yes, consistency is key. And we want to put it in such an easy way where all they have to worry about is being consistent. Because everything else, if you try to make your meals tasty, it gets time consuming.
Yeah.
Researching recipes, even. Like, we have hundreds of thousands of recipes. We're going to breach over 1 million recipes soon. So
okay.
It's to the point to where you just continuously keep hitting regenerate on the meal plan, and it'll still keep you within your caloric range.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So let's use somebody like me that's maybe going to be mostly a meat eater to a degree, not full carnivore, but like pick a category for me and let's walk through if I was using the app.
So with you, you're an intelligent individual whenever it comes to like your fitness specifically.
Well, thank you, buddy.
I would. Well, even our conversations outside of this, like you're very in tune with what you need, like even why you eat things, which is uncommon. Most people don't know those.
Okay,
things.
so then maybe let's use a more basic use case of I want to lose weight and I don't really know what to do.
I'll still use you.
Okay.
So I would recommend to you click not picky on the meal plan types and go all in on the ingredient preferences, excluding everything manually that you know. And then if you see something pop up in the meal planner that you're like, you know what, I actually don't want to eat that ingredient. Just pop over the ingredient preferences and exclude it.
Okay. Well, what about the macro component then? So let's say I'm 165 right now, and let's say for swimsuit season, going by the pool, I want to get down to 155 and get a little bit leaner. Okay. So let's add in the element of what the goal is as well.
Okay. So what our meal planner does, and I'm transparent with our model on how our data works. I don't believe in hiding. I think users, the ones who want to know, they should know where the data comes from. So we use the Mifflin-St. Joer method to find your basal metabolic rate.
Okay.
So that is your base calories, also known as your coma calories.
Okay.
So for you, I would use the metrics you just shared with me, and I would find that base calorie. That's what our software does.
So base calorie, how much I should consume per day to be
that's a minimum.
Stasis. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's if you're not moving.
Okay.
So the next thing we do is we add or adjust your total energy expenditure.
Yep.
So your TEE. So from there, we go, okay, not just lose weight. We need to go, okay, I understand you want to lose weight. Okay, what are your metrics? Now, how active are you?
Yeah.
So, because that's a huge difference. That's why you shouldn't follow other people's meal plans, because you don't know how active they are. You don't know the other variables that are involved that our app will automate.
Okay.
That's why, you can eat the same things, but you need the app to adjust portion control.
Okay.
So from there, I would find that, and then I would immediately put you in a 20% caloric deficit.
Okay.
So if you click to lose weight, it would put you in a 20% caloric deficit.
So if I was, let's say the need was 2,000 calories a day, just to use a round number, 20% caloric deficit means I cut 400 calories off. So I'm eating 1,600 calories, if you will. Right, and just using numbers, that doesn't mean it applies to me. So I'm going, okay, now I need to eat in such a manner that the total calories equate to about 400 calories less than I should eat to maintain my weight, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And you as a male specifically, and especially a very fit individual, I highly recommend eating between 40 to 50% of your diet as protein.
Yep.
Lean proteins.
Yep.
Some people can get away with 30 to 40%. You really need to try it yourself. I say start at 40 to 50%.
Okay.
And then work your way back down from there.
Well, yeah, and we're talking like high level detail, and like you and I can get in specifics, but most people aren't going to need to know how the sausage is made. They're just going to say, okay, tell me how many calories I should eat and tell me how much to eat and when, right?
See, we automate all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we do allow the user to go dig if they want.
Okay.
So that's where we kind of pride ourselves. We simplified it so much where you can just go in, click, okay, I'm ready for my groceries. And then you click over to the grocery tab.
That's cool.
If you like your recipes. But if you want to nerd out or if you want to dive deeper, you're able to click on the recipes, scroll in and click on the ingredients and see like what those ingredients or what those recipes consist of.
Yeah.
And then you can balance your macros from there.
Well, what I like what you're describing is you're democratizing access to the information that's required, right? So like you're saying, I could pay couple $100 a month or more, I mean, a lot more for a personal trainer and or a dietitian, somebody to put together a meal plan. Then I might have to pay some company that puts all the packages together, and then I probably overpay for the food sourcing that way, et cetera, et cetera. But what you're trying to do is make it accessible to as many people as possible and automating the how so they can get to the what as quickly as possible. Yeah,
for sure, man. So we've got to do that because there's a huge epidemic in America specifically.
Yep.
I mean, one person dies every 33 seconds from heart disease alone.
Really?
Yes. And I'm a firm believer, and I won't mention a study, but it's because of diet.
Yeah, yeah.
Diet and lack of exercise or lack of resistance training. I'm going to go a little deeper there.
Okay.
But I believe that you don't just need to walk. You need resistance training. We have hips that move for a reason. They need to be flexed and strained. So you need to get full blood flow throughout your body, not just walking.
Well, I was telling you about that study I saw from Dr. Rhonda Patrick while we were off camera. To your point, this specific study she was citing showed that how men over 50, the heart starts to stiffen and harden, which makes it less efficient pumping blood and all of those things. And therefore, that's where you start to have some of these chronic diseases pop up and the risk of heart attack and things like that. But what that study showed is the one variable that would reduce that decline in your heart strength was resistance training and the frequency of resistance training. It actually said, realistically, 2 to 3 days a week of resistance training wasn't enough. It needs to be closer to 4 to 5, and if not 6 or 7, the elite athletes that are maintaining a high level of health very late in their life, they're working out it essentially every single day.
It's vital, like our entire body. I mean, it's either skeletal or muscular. Especially the most vital ones, your heart being a muscle.
Yeah.
And I really think it's that simple. Like most of your body's made of these muscle and skeletal tissues, so just work them out.
So work it out.
Yeah, because that's how you repair. That's how you build. I mean, you have to micro tear things in order to improve them.
Well, it's simple, but it is hard, right? It's hard to get to the gym every day. It's hard to get to the gym when you don't want to, when you feel like you don't have the time, you have a million other distractions. So yes, the answer is simple, but the actual execution on it is the hard part. And so how can we make that much simpler? So we focused on the diet. The one piece I want to connect of the diet portion before we get into the fitness prescription is, okay, you mentioned that I can source the food. I can click and go and add it to some sort of cart and get my groceries. How does that work?
So right now we just have where you can download export your grocery list.
Okay.
But we're in this position now where we're transitioning and interviewing the grocers. Yes.
Okay. So like instant connection where that will select the foods they need and put it into a cart or something like that. Okay.
And so
you could make it simpler, especially because now you can get your groceries delivered these days as well.
So we're going all in, just like we did with the whole app. We didn't want to launch with just part of the feature or one grocer. We didn't want to just do, let's just say Walmart for an example. We wanted to give you the ability to have the diversity in the groceries, just as you do with your meals and your exercise in the app. I mean, because we're a premium app.
Okay.
We didn't, like when we launched to the public and we launched to the market, our MVP or minimal viable product for our technology was far better and far more than most tech startups see in their first 5 years.
Really?
Yes. Like we were that in depth, but it's because I had so much already planned. I had all the algorithms already planned. Like I already knew a lot of the data. I just need somebody to make it look pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I had already put all that work.
Right? Intuitive. It's simple to use. And I love the fact that you can keep refreshing the ingredients lists over and over again until you get a meal plan you want. There's a lot of precision in it, but it still has to be simple to use. The main thing is if I want to keep using it, it has to be so simple to keep going back in and doing it again and again and again.
Chronic health issues, surprise out-of-network medical bills, inflated medical and prescription drug prices. These issues cost self-insured employers hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Add to this the rising cost of care and potential for waste across the life of a claim, and it's clear that self-insured employers need innovative solutions that lower their health plan spend. At Valence, we've done just that, developed innovation that shifts the current paradigm. A complete and integrated ecosystem solution driven by data, one that manages and simplifies the complexity of medical claim costs. It is through analyzing millions of data points that we enable employers to realize and fuel cost-saving solutions. Valence experts come prepared from day one, targeting the fraction of claims that will drive the majority of health plan costs. That is how our team lives the Valence promise, engaging early and often for smarter, better, faster healthcare.
And that's where I took that contractor mindset. I went from trying to do it on my own. As soon as I hired one, I hired a consultant in. I used TopTal, give them a shout out. Love TopTal. They have a top degree of consultants that you can hire.
Okay.
I hired one and he laid out my app and it's beautiful.
That's amazing.
I mean, considering as much as we do, trying to fit all of that into just one app, I mean, it's seamless.
Well, remind me, I was telling you over coffee, we should definitely get some kind of screenshot footage of your app so that we can overlay it on clips and stuff so people can visualize what we're talking about. The other piece, though, is the fitness, right? Because if you're like me, diet is a huge component of like achieving your kind of health and fitness goals, but the exercise component is also going to help accelerate that or help add value to the whole equation. So how do you incorporate like designing exercise plans into it?
So in the exercise plans, you can pick from a pool that we've created. We call them Affili-Fit picks or picks for you at the top. And those are our basic generic workout plans.
Yeah.
But we also have a community where, I mean, you can find thousands of exercises alone and thousands of workouts and workout plans alone that you can follow from other users. And the reason why we did that, because we didn't want to fully automate that exercise process, because there's too many variables, and you don't want to give somebody an exercise that they have some deep hatred for.
Yeah, because they won't do it.
Yes, and I found that through personal training. And a lot of these apps are giving people these workout plans, and it's like you don't even know them. Like you didn't know they broke their ankle back playing softball when they were a freshman. Like it's just something like that. And they're like, I don't do squats. It's like, well, you should. But you're not going to have that conversation with somebody.
But it's you should. But I mean, like we should all do certain things in our life that we just have some sort of aversion for it. And if we're not going to do it, you can figure out something else to do instead that might achieve similar results. But I will do that other thing if you just give me an option to do that instead.
And it promotes employee engagement. So what we found, and that's why we have it. We didn't have it at first, by the way. So, and there's one thing I'll touch on with the meals too. You can share your recipes. Like, so you can create your own recipes.
Okay.
So you can create your own recipes, share them with family members or other employees. They can follow them. You can follow the same meal plan. You can share your entire meal plan with people to where they can go follow the same meals you're eating, just adjust the serving sizes.
Okay.
Same thing with the workout. The workouts were shared most first. So that's where we went.
Okay.
That's why we added the community, where instead of just our list of workouts, because I thought I was professional, I realized it's more important not to be highly specific on the workouts that somebody needs to do. It's just to get them to start working out. And so we transitioned from the highly technical workout plans to allowing a community where people can share workouts with one another. So we have follow-along video workouts. I don't know to reference, I don't want to say their names, but like video workouts that you can follow along to that are intense from your home. And then we also have these GIF style, which I do want to overlay for this. We had these custom GIFs made that not only shows you how to do the exercise, but what body part is highlighted in red.
Oh, sweet.
It's targeted. Yes.
Yeah, because I suspect a lot of your core user base is people that maybe have not really worked out much in their whole life, right? So they're essentially starting from the beginning.
Most of them.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah.
Yes. And we also added this filtration feature. It allows you to filter in the exercise portion of the training studio is what we call it. You can filter by how much time you have, what target body parts you want, a lot of other preferences. But like if you don't have certain equipment, you can exclude those and it won't show up in the training studio.
Wait, so like the early days of your business, though, you weren't thinking about employers and you weren't thinking about insurance brokers, right?
No.
Like, so who was your kind of target audience to get the app in their hands?
Trainers.
Trainers, so personal trainers.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I seen it as a way to improve what I did. I was so close, too close to it.
Yeah.
You know, because I built it because I was helping train people. And I was like, man, this is so much better because I can share that meal plan with them. If I create it once and I have somebody else that comes by that's the same demographic, I can just share them that same meal plan and just adjust serving sizes rather than have to write it out. But that transition happened when I was in a wellness meeting and they were talking about this app that I won't say, but it's a competing app, and it just didn't do anything to me. Like I was giggling during the meeting. We're paying access to these pre-recorded workout videos. Like, pay me $100, I'll go on YouTube and find pre-recorded videos and send them to you.
And send you a playlist of them.
Yes. And just little things like that and seeing how much they were making. I was like, I got to get into this employee benefits.
Yeah, it's funny, man. You found yourself in this place, and I don't know if there was somebody that encouraged you to get in it, but I mean, this is what I was telling you over coffee. The chasm for me is that personal accountability, my life, what I eat, how I exercise is personal to me as an individual, right? And then you've got this whole thing over here that's employee benefits, where now employers are sponsoring healthcare for 160 million people in the United States. But there's a disconnect between how do you impact what an individual employee is doing on a daily basis for their own health, yet I'm over here paying for the majority of the employee's health insurance. And so therefore, what level can an employer influence an employee to that extent? And what I think your app, to a degree, I can't tell you if it bridges that entire chasm, it's like trying to answer that question.
Yeah, and that's our goal. So it started as like just seeing missing value. And I was like, my app's way better than that. Like, I need to get in there. And I pitched it to an employer and instantly got traction. And was like, oh no, this is it. You know, I mean, there was a lot of learning that went involved. Of course, you know, we didn't stay that hot traction, you know, but it came from the employer didn't have the time or didn't have the money to hire a wellness individual or a wellness director to be able to talk with each and every one of the employees. And so I seen a way to bridge that gap.
Okay.
Like I really believe I'm at where you're saying that missing value is. Because we allow the employees to have 100% customized meal plans and workout plans to their needs, which is what they need to live a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because everything outside of that, they can go to their doctor for.
Pareto Health is the largest benefits captive in the United States. With nearly 3,000 captive members, $1.3 billion of stop-loss premium in force, and almost 1 million covered lives, no other benefits captive comes close to Pareto Health's scale. But it's not just about the numbers. Pareto Health is a mission-driven organization, and that mission has two distinct parts. Number one, to make self-insurance simple and more accessible for small to mid-sized employers. And number two, to arm them with the most powerful cost management tools on the market. So if you're an employer frustrated with your healthcare outcomes, or you're a benefits consultant looking for an alternative to the status quo, it's time to consider Pareto Health. Pareto Health, where employers come to do self-insurance right, to do it easily, and to do it at scale. But see, that's the connection point, right? Where when are we going to see an actual overall decrease in healthcare expenditure in the United States? Is when there's an overall increase in employee or individual American health, right? Mm-hmm. The baseline of the average American's health needs to improve dramatically, and then we'll see a reduction in healthcare spend as a nation as well. And like, there's not really been the thing that can do that at scale. And again, we don't know if that's actually going to materialize fully for what you're doing or not, but you're at least targeting that specific problem in the equation, which is what I love about it. Can I ask you the name Affili-Fit though? What created that name? What's the affiliate piece of it?
The affiliate of fitness and health.
Okay.
And so my original goal for the app was to make my money on the affiliates from the groceries.
Okay.
So affiliate commissions through the groceries and exercise equipment and stuff like that. And I felt this pull on my heart. So I kept the name because I can't think of another one. So Affili-Fit just stuck, being the affiliate of fitness and health. But I was like, I need to charge for the value of my product. Mm-hmm. That way I'm not tempted to only push what makes me money.
Yep.
And so I made that quick transition.
The incentive structure, right? Then push is just like, how do I drive revenue?
Yes.
But I think also one of the things is like early stage, and I experienced this as well, software that's free, people don't value it as much. Mm-hmm. And then if it's like free, like a social media platform, that's because you're the customer. You as a user, they call you a user because you're essentially being used in that equation for them to create revenue through advertisements and things like that. I do like the model more, which is pay for it. Value it. And then even if it's a small amount of money, because somebody's committed to making that payment, there feels like an accountability component to actually use it as well. If it's free, people can come in and walk away just as easily as well. And so they don't value it as much.
So true. And I got data to support it with my app. We gave it away for free. Instantly got tons of people getting on it. But the usage was so low after a while.
Okay.
Or they just didn't give the feedback that we needed.
Yeah.
But the people, once we flipped on the paywall or started charging people for the app, the ones that stuck around, they're true and tried.
Yeah.
And that's when we realized, like, just because we have a user doesn't mean we have a customer. So I like that transition you made earlier. And when I was thinking about how I have to pitch future investors, I had one tell me that exact phrase. Just because you have a user doesn't mean you have a customer.
100%.
Especially in my competitive space.
Yeah.
Like, although I think I'm best, I think I'm different. From, the glass in the shop, it's just a behavioral health app.
Okay.
And without that 2 seconds of conversation to let me explain to you how much different I am, we can't just allow that freebie to be our only way to scale our business.
Not to mention, you and I were talking about this too, like somebody that's actually paying for it, you're going to value the feedback they're giving a lot more than somebody that's just casually using it for free and then is willing to walk away the second you might charge them $1 a month to use it, right? Like they're not committed, and so they're not valuing it enough that their feedback is actually going to be meaningful to you. And the ones that do stick around and do use it and go, hey, by the way, Chris, I've been using it for 6 months. Do you think you guys could do this? You go, I'm going to listen to you, right? Because why do you value that? What's the reason why you want that thing? It doesn't mean you're going to automatically do everything that somebody suggests, but you're at least going to give more credence to their recommendation.
Yes, and that's exactly how our app was built. I mean, I built the base, but from my knowledge, but every small little feature in the app, or the little enhancement, you're going to run through it in the app. If you're on it, you're like, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's because a paying user said, hey, I wish you guys would add this. And I would sit down, I would whiteboard is what I call it, write it on a board and be like, what's the pros and cons of this? Is this worth it? What's the dev time, development cost? What's the potential return on it? Is it worth it? So, we don't just say yes to everything, but most of those actually happened.
Well, let's talk about the positioning now, the difference in positioning it vis-a-vis an insurance broker, right, helping you position it to employers. How do you feel it's different explaining what you do or explaining the value of what you do versus just getting your one-off direct-to-consumer individuals joining?
I think it's a complete opposite.
Okay.
Because when I'm pitching to the user, I'm pitching, the meal planner. I show them how they share recipes with their husband and wife. And when I'm with employers, I'm pitching the, reducing absence and risk of injury. And then I'm pitching the improving of health and employee engagement.
Okay.
Which both sides are amazing, but just two different styles of conversation. Like in our pitch deck, or that we share with employers, I call it a pitch deck. It's our flyer. I mean, we have studies to prove that you can reduce absence 30 to 50%.
Really?
Just by having employees follow a health or a fitness and meal regimen. And I think it's more of the regimen itself. So if you see my flyer, it's on the second page. And so you'll see that we not only just have the health app, we've automated those healthy habits that have proven structure to reduce cost to employers.
Well, in the future, as you guys get enough data coming in from the actual employees themselves, I believe very strongly you can prove claim savings as well, which means now you're proving very tangibly to an employer the return on investment in employee health. And so that may take a couple years of having a credible enough sample set to be able to prove that. But the whole premise of this is I'm not just investing in my employees. Yes, I want them to be healthier, but I believe that this is going to have an impact on the spend I have on healthcare as well.
Yes.
And so both of those things can be true. One of them just takes a little bit longer, I think, to materialize.
Oh, and it definitely does. I mean, we're in case studies right now with employers, and we're trying to make them as diverse as possible, from blue collar to white collar, because those out there creating wellness initiatives, they're not the same at all. I mean, I've even done consulting during this time frame where they didn't have the money for my app, or they didn't have the initiative, they didn't have the employment.
Yeah.
It's like earlier I was talking about the employers with less than, I'd say 100. A lot of those don't have the money or finances to hire a wellness director or somebody to manage that's even knowledgeable enough. So even if they have somebody, they may not be knowledgeable enough.
Yeah.
And just how you would position some type of health plan for it. By health plan, I mean like an exercise program specifically. And I have an exact example. So they had this PDF that they got from some wellness provider, and it showed them basic stretches. And I seen these office employees doing bent over toe touches. And they're going over doing bent over toe touches, and their form was awful, and they didn't understand why they were actually doing it.
Yeah.
And so I went in, I just made a recommendation. I was like, this is meant to stretch your lower back, your hamstrings, your glutes, and so forth. Do not bow your upper back, because you're sitting at a desk, bowed all day anyway.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, because it's natural to them, because they bowed for so long, they basically bowed their back all the way to their toes rather than getting the flexion in the hips.
Yep.
And so you want to change that to, instead of stretching them, work them out, exercise them, strengthen that upper back, and teach them full range of motion. Vice versa, a blue-collar employee. And this is a service that we provide with Affili-Fit. So an employer who purchases Affili-Fit for their employees, we make a custom workout plan based on employment type.
I see.
Yes.
That's great.
So I forgot to mention that before this, but that's what we do. So we look and we go, okay, do you have a sitting employee, a hybrid employee, or a manual labor employee? And we create different workout plans based on the equipment that they have local to them, like a local gym in the area. We'll look at it and say, okay, it's a public gym, we can make a workout plan with this, or there's no gym near you, which has happened, and we create at-home workouts based on those. Yeah. But like the blue-collar employee, he needs to stretch. The sitting employee probably just needs to do more workouts and more strength training to strengthen their core as they're sitting all day. And whenever the blue-collar employee does need to strength train, but he also needs to stretch. Yeah. As he's, especially production workers. We had a guy, all he did was this. I mean, he was looking at stuff periodically, but
that repetitive motion, man.
You walked up to him and he he was still stuck in that position.
Yeah, he's just like talking to you and still making this motion the whole time. You're like, dude, you can stop now.
Yes, but his elbows are tucked in when you're talking to him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you're like, I see it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the rounding of the shoulders. I've been going to a chiropractor recently because, I sit at a desk, and the desk that I use for most of the day, not ergonomically sound, right? So my laptop is a little lower than it should be, so I got to stand to bring it up to eye level, but I'm sitting like this, and it's rounding the shoulders, tightening the pecs.
Yes.
It's equated to kind of a underutilized rhomboid, so therefore weak mid-back. And so we're targeting all those things right now, and it's stuff that you don't really think about. You go, yeah, I'm doing all the back workouts, I'm doing pull-ups and all these things, but like I'm not targeting that individual muscle that's then causing the rounding, and now it's weak because it's underutilized, and then you have this downstream effect that creates neck pain in this example.
Yes.
So identifying the actual application for the individual, what are the things that we need to correct that are probably posturally wrong based on long-term sitting at a desk? Like that stuff is important, man, because the actual specific application means you can tailor it to the individual person so they have better corrective action after that.
Yes, and that's how we're standing out is we do like the full consultation with the employer. It's not just like, hey, here's my app, sign a subscription, here's an agreement, and then we bounce.
Yep.
Like we even have it in the emails with all the employees, quick tips, like, hey, if you're sitting all day, so on and so forth, like best practices for your certain type of employment. And then you need to understand, like, people have lives too, and there's a culture that people have.
Sure, yeah.
And so with that being said, you're not going to walk up to a bunch of people where I'm from and telling them to stop eating red meat.
You're not going to tell me that either.
Yeah, but like I've seen it in person. I've seen people like, well, this is why, and they're trying to demonize certain ingredients whenever you need to promote the healthy living itself and what works for them and focus on them building that consistency. Like even if you're not using my app for your employees, focus on how you can simplify the process so they can work on the consistency.
Yeah.
Don't demonize anything because you never know who you're going to offend. Some person in there, maybe the one that has the highest healthcare cost, may be hyper offensive and just be like, well, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to quit eating red meat.
Well, I think the way that you've made it where it's automated to the sense that the individual can make those choices as well, right? Right. You're not forcing these choices on them. You're allowing them to have their discretion of like the type of meal plan, type of exercise plan I can adhere to, but still with a stated goal of what I'm trying to achieve. And then you build the program around those variables.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I said it well. You're just like, yes, sir. That's exactly what I do. I appreciate that. Well, there's a couple of things I want to do before we inch towards the end. Nathaniel, how long have we been going? Probably an hour. That's what I thought. Okay. This is long, but dude, it hasn't felt long at all because I love this stuff. You mentioned that you're looking to get into the realm of sleep. Like, tell me why, and then what you guys are going to do there.
So the reason why sleep is vital. Like coming from the athlete background or bodybuilding background specifically, I would much rather you catch up on your sleep than to hit another workout.
Okay.
So if you were at the end of the day, like this was my life in blue collar, I'd be sitting there drenched in whatever it is that I was working on. I'd be like, I can go to bed or I can work out. And I used to just work out.
Okay.
I'd be like, because I'm a grinder, get aggressive. But studies have shown time and time again that the recovery process in sleep is so much more vital than you going and hitting that extra workout and losing sleep. Thinking you're progressing. You're actually setting yourself back. And so what I want to do, not just from that fitness standpoint, but I want to be able to show the employees how vital sleep is. That's my goal. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to integrate with the current sleep trackers that they have.
Yeah, I was going to say the Whoops of the world, the Oura rings, things like that.
Yep. So if it connects to the internal or I don't want to go that far. So if it connects to your smartphone, and if it accesses the data there, we can too.
Okay.
So that's what we'll do. You have to give us permission. Just like now, if you have a smartwatch, you can use your smartwatch with our Affili-Fit app.
Okay.
So it's the same way. We'll just add sleep tracking with there. And at this time, we want to take this data with the sleep tracking and leverage it to make improvements.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense, right? And like, we can get into all the metabolic processes that happen when you're sleeping and why it's vital, and we don't need to do that. But I agree with you that variable is one that should be incorporated, and I'm glad you guys are doing that to emphasize the value of sleep. Coming from somebody that is giving up some sleep, right, for working and all the things that I do, I know that if I were to add at least another hour to my sleep schedule, the amount of improvement that could happen. right now I'm trying to find that time. You know, it's like wake up at 5, but I got to go to bed at 9, but I have time. I need to hang out with my wife and actually have the relationship with my wife. And so you're trying to find enough hours in the day to accomplish all those things, but it's absolutely crucial sleep, for sure. So I want to ask you then, as we inch towards the end, this kind of like pivot into the world of employee brokers and selling through that channel. Like, what have you learned? Like, what's different about this that you didn't know a couple years ago when you started this thing?
Ooh, it's a battle royale.
It's a battle royale. Wow, so
because there's so many people trying to pitch something, and I will say now that I've been doing this for almost 3 years, a lot of it is nonsense. That these brokers are getting pitched. And I know this now that I'm in the brokers and I get to see other products that are getting pitched. And so I get the hesitancy. So the reason why I say battle royales, when I first started, I just couldn't get traction. I couldn't get momentum. And it's because I didn't have those case studies. I didn't have that data. And just a lot of things that I just didn't have as a startup.
Sure.
But then I started learning, okay, I got to go find it. So that's when free, we talked about not doing free. That's when free helped me. When I was able to, by free, I mean free of monetary value, but I was able to exchange the data. So instead of saying, hey, I need $10 a month or I need $1 per month, depending on your employment size, I was able to say, I need to be able to track your usage. I need your permission to use your data to then take to in a broker. So that's what I did. So going from there, working with the broker, it's honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me when it comes to being educated. So I will shout out Summit Financial Group.
Kyle Minnick.
Yeah, Kyle Minnick.
Our mutual buddy, Kyle Minnick. What's up, Kyle? Yeah.
It just very involved. I guess that's the word I'll use. Like they weren't just like, all right, what's your offering? And then just listen to it there. Like those guys even roughed me up a little bit. They're like, well, no, what about this? What about this? If you thought about adding this, some of our features are there because they recommended it.
Totally. Yeah.
And so, but just having that base of the relationship with that broker is vital.
Yep.
I mean, if you're running a health app or starting one up or just any kind of app that works with improving employee health and you're going to be tackling like the broker market or you want to, hyper focus on that broker relationship and listen.
Well, I mentioned it earlier, and I'll say it again. Something like 165 million Americans get their health care through their employer, right? Through an employer-sponsored plan. That's it's almost half the United States of America. And I think a lot of these fitness companies and the ones that use influencers and things like that to pitch an app don't recognize the addressable market that comes through employers. And it's much easier to scale when you have access to somebody that has 1,000 lives on their plan or 10,000 lives on their plan than it is to acquire each individual customer directly, right?
Yes.
And so I think that channel just hasn't been mined correctly in the realm that you operate in. I think you also get the benefit of you're not health and wellness 1.0 or even 2.0. You're probably in the 3.0 version of health and wellness. And you have a lot of these employers that still likely have residual skepticism about the utility and benefit of a wellness or a behavioral health app, but you get to learn from all the mistakes of the previous organizations and hear from brokers where they missed and where you can hit instead.
Yes.
So being at this stage now probably gives you a huge leg up in doing that and being successful.
Oh, definitely. And especially just listening. I can't emphasize that enough. Like listening to them, not only like their feedback and where you should go, but also with the clients. Like I've been fortunate enough to be directly connected. But like there's some organizations that I've heard of, I haven't experienced it yet, where you don't really get to talk to that end customer. They apply your product and then there it is. But since we're so concierge with creating our personal workout plans for each employment type, that's our leg in. And being able to even have that broker to interpret what that employer is saying.
Yeah.
Like even as strange as that sounds, because they would say something and I hear it, and they've just been in the game for so long, they truly understand.
I was using the word phenotype earlier, but that broker persona is so important that you understand their role and responsibility in being sort of the arbiter of what can work for that employer or not, and understanding how they would position it or what their employers might be concerned with. Like you need to be able to speak to them and compel them. That way they put it in front of their employers. Because remember, they're making money by consulting and serving that employer. So every time they might table something new or present this new concept, they have fear, is my employer going to be the guinea pig? Am I going to lose my client because I tested something out on them that maybe wasn't fully baked yet? And then now they're pointing the finger at me if it went wrong. I would say that ultimately you need to understand the consultant as a conduit to speak to them appropriately so they will put you in front of employers. So why don't we do this, Chris? Dude, this has been awesome. Like, it hasn't felt like an hour at all. And I actually genuinely believe we could speak for another hour, but I don't know if anybody listened to two and a half hours. So why don't we do this, man? If you will, give us like your closing thoughts or ideas or how you would summarize this, that somebody is interested in what they've heard so far. Like, what's the final message that you ultimately want to leave for them? And I know this is always the hardest question to answer. Yeah, and I didn't prepare you for it either. Sorry, man.
No, you're good. I like it.
Yeah. But I mean, sum up like what's the purpose? What's the mission for what you're doing, man?
Well, so I'll say that, but also want to say just from this podcast alone, know who you are. That's a big one.
Okay.
Because a lot of what I reference and how I started, I feel like a lot of people don't find out who they are, what they stand for, until later in life.
Agree.
So know who you are. Create your core values.
Your value system is so important, man, because it'll transcend any job you ever have, man.
Or even in, the relationships. But with this, I just want people to know that our app is built to really improve the employee's life at the employee's life's hands, so they have full control of what they want to eat and where they want to go. Without having to put all that thought in it, and they can focus on consistency. The reason why I touch on that one is because that's what I feel like is left out the most.
Consistency?
Yeah, well, no, the thought process behind a meal plan and all of the planning to get an actual healthy diet. That's what I think is left out by a lot of employers or a lot of industries. They're just like, oh, well, eat healthy.
Yeah, what does that mean?
There's a lot. So that's one thing I really want people to understand.
What do I think you've simplified the access to the amount of precision that's required to do these things correctly, like the tailoring of the macros and how many calories and how to achieve a calorie deficit. Those are things that even I would struggle to put on paper and exactly. I'd have to go do a bunch of research in order to do that myself. Or something like Affili-Fit that's done all that research and understands all that stuff behind the scenes, puts it in my hand and says, okay, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? And okay, here's your plan. Like, how simple could, and then that way millions of people could benefit from that. That's what I love about what you're doing, man. And I'm very excited for you. I'm very hopeful for you as well. Happy to help anything I can beyond the podcast. But I am hopeful that this has piqued some folks' interest and that you get some people reaching out to you as well.
I hope so. I mean, we want to work with you all. I mean, the brokers especially would love you guys. And the account managers, I really want to learn from you as well.
Cool. Well, Chris, we'll make sure obviously you and Affili-Fit are all tagged and promoted in this, but I can't thank you again for reaching out initially and telling me about what you guys are doing. And I'm glad we finally did this podcast.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thanks, man.
Sir.